Hey everybody. So we are here, Poetry Lockdown Day 15. Very excited about that. Um, Today we are reading a poem from Mary Szybist. I think that's how you say it, or Szybist or Chibist. Um, love her poetry. Don't necessarily know how to say her name. Um, but one thing I'm recognizing as I continue on with these poems is as a reader of poetry and as a poet myself, I definitely return to familiar themes and obsessions. And one of the things that I've noticed about myself as a poet and as a reader of poetry is that I'm really fascinated by how poets engage with, make new and fresh, interrogate stories of the scripture. This is a poet who wrote an entire book of poetry, thinking about and meditating on poetically the story of the Annunciation. And she's just done some really terrific work in this book. And so this poem, like some of the other poems I've shared by Father Joseph Brown, who in fact was a teacher of Mary Szybist and Lucille Clifton. This is a persona poem. So with the Clifton poem, we were in the perspective of Sarah from the book of Genesis. With Father Joseph Brown's poem, we were actually in the point of view of Joseph. This is actually from the perspective of an angel, the angel Gabriel, and it's kind of it's a really interesting poem because it really takes the long view of Gabriel and his relationship to Mary, um, but it's thinking about the moment of the incarnation. Here we go. Long after the desert and donkey, Gabriel to Mary, and of what there would be no end, it came quickly. The wind runs loose, the air churns over us. No one remembers. But I remember, under the elm's cool awning, watching you watch the clouds. Afternoons passed like afternoons, and I loved how dull you were. Given a bit of bark or the buzz of a bright green fly, you'd smile for hours. Sweet child, you'd go to anyone. You had no preferences. I remember the first time coming toward you, how solid you looked, sitting and twisting your dark hair against your neck. But you were not solid. From the first moment when you breathed on my single lily, I saw where you felt it. From then on, I wanted to bend low and close to the curves of your ear. There were so many things I wanted to tell you, or rather, I wished to have things that I wanted to tell you. What a thing to be with you and have no words for it. What a thing to be outcast like that. And then everything unfastened. It was like something was always dissolving inside you. Already, it's hard to remember how you used to comb your hair or how you tilted your broad face in green shade. Now, what meanings can I place in you? Each night, I see you by the window, sometimes pressing your lips against a pear you do not eat. Each night, I see where you feel it, where there are no mysteries. I, I love uh, I love the questioning quality of that. I love in some sense, uh, awe and knowledge that this Gabriel, who's existed for a long, long time. I don't know the theology of angels, but maybe forever, or right there up there with forever. Um, Remembers the moment when Mary was, dull, given a bit of bark or the buzz of a bright green fly, you'd smile for hours. A child, essentially. um, and is able to locate the moment when this child suddenly becomes someone who even Gabriel is really not able to access, or is not able to be aware of all the things that are going on and the power that she has. And I love that this poem locates that moment, and locates an angel's awe at a human being, a woman of incredible power in the scriptures. And I find that stunning and beautiful. I'm going to read a section of that poem again, not the whole thing, but a section of it again. Before I do, though, I wanted to read a little bit of the poet's own writing. She had a beautiful essay published in America magazine called "Whose Version of Mary Am I Holding?" And in it, she actually mentions her teacher, Father Brown, whose poem we read earlier, and then says some things about Mary that I think are worth thinking about before I read the poem again. She says, I believed my undergraduate teacher, Joseph A. Brown, S.J., when he said that voices have the power to save others and the power to destroy them. I believed him when he said that the same is true of silence, my silence. I still believe him. I hear his voice in me like a good angel, reminding, and yet, to rage in quiet, to grieve in quiet. I worry that my deepest inclinations are for quiet. And I noticed that spirit of quiet and contemplation in that poem I just read. And she says later in this essay, I love the possibility that the Bible may have been assembled as a grand peacemaking gesture, an attempt to bring together communities at war by assembling a single book, inclusive of all the different ways they tell the same stories. I love how the Bible stories are not smoothly blended, but coexist side by side. And I love Mary, that your presence is part of it, that your speaking is essential to it. He will fill the hungry with good things, the rich he will send away empty. Before I read the Bible, I hardly thought of you as someone who spoke. Um, and I wanted to include that section because a big part of Mary Szybist's approach to Mary in the scriptures is awe at her speaking. And I noticed as I reread this poem that Mary doesn't get words in here, Gabriel does, and so I definitely um, wanted to make sure to include some of Mary's voice, all right, and what struck Mary Szybist. So thank you for engaging with this poem. I'm going to read the last section of the poem again before I sign off. So this is from the middle of the poem, right at that moment when Gabriel locates the incarnation, God becoming a human being in Mary. But you were not solid. From the first moment when you breathed on my single lily, I saw where you felt it. From then on, I wanted to bend low and close to the curves of your ear. There were so many things I wanted to tell you. Or rather, I wished to have things that I wanted to tell you. What a thing to be with you and have no words for it. What a thing to be outcast like that. And then everything unfastened. It was like something was always dissolving inside you. Already it's hard to remember how you used to comb your hair or how you tilted your broad face in green shade. Now, what seas, what meanings can I place in you? Each night, I see you by the window, sometimes pressing your lips against a pear you do not eat. Each night, I see where you feel it, where there are no mysteries. Thank you, Mary Szybist. Thank you all for listening.